Hello, hello. Welcome to Author Spotlight. I'm your host, Leslie Cottrell, and I coach nonfiction authors to write and publish their legacy books. I'm also the COO at Victorious You Press, where we help authors bring their stories to life and into the marketplace as a publishing services provider. And every week, we come on here and bring you some captivating interviews with other nonfiction writers who are literally changing the world with their amazing books. Author Spotlight is really all about giving you all kind of a behind the scenes look at both the writing and the publishing process. So grab your coffee or tea and settle in, and let's get started. Because today I am so very excited to be able to introduce you all to a woman I've had the privilege to get to know through one of our Victorious You Press self-published cohorts. May I introduce Lakecia Carta? Welcome, Lakecia. So glad to have you today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So today we're talking about your best-selling book, Unapologetic: Bold Leadership Success Strategies for Women of Color. And Lakecia is a mom, and I love that she put that first because that's how I look at life. She's a certified transformation coach, and I hope you'll speak to that a little bit maybe today. A speaker, an author, and founder of Pinnacle U LLC, which is a personal development practice. Lakecia's got over 25 years in global leadership development and in coaching and consulting. Lakecia empowers women to unleash their unique gifts and walk in purpose and authenticity and confidence and joy. And Lakecia resides in Charlotte, North Carolina. So, Lakecia, tell us, just to get started, maybe a little bit about what sparked your writing bug. And I would love it also if you might tell us a little something that I didn't already mention that we might not know about you.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you and with this audience. Um, let's see. You said something that you didn't mention. Well, I am from Jacksonville, Florida. I am the youngest of four. So I am the baby of my family. I have two older brothers and one older sister.
Mm.
I am a avid line dancer. So you give me some music and I'll be in there in the middle of the floor. So that's something
I
I've
love
just
it.
kind of taken, a hold. As we know, line dancing is a whole vibe now. So that's something that I love to do in my spare time, as well as work out and spend time with my family. So those are just some of the personal things that you didn't mention, but I'm very proud to be a mom. Like you mentioned, is the best part of my life, and my
Mm.
children are my two heartbeats. So love them to death. Um, let's see. You said the spark. So the spark actually came years ago. So I've always been a writer. I've always been an encourager. That's just something that I love to do. I love people. I love connecting with people. And I've always uplifted people through writing. But the writing bug hit back in 2020. So, as
Mm.
you may recall, there were several incidents that happened. We were in the middle of the pandemic, and we don't say their names much anymore, but I want to say their names out loud. In February 2020, there was Ahmaud Arbery. In March 2020, Breonna Taylor. And in May of 2020, George Floyd. And when that happened, it shook the world. It shook me as being a Black woman during that time. And if you can recall, all of the initiatives came forward. People started to have new conversations. And I was sitting as the only Black woman in the room, being the spokesperson for my entire race, right? Because everyone felt so uncomfortable. And in that moment, I realized that as a woman of color, I needed to stand up and be bold and stop code switching and stop pretending. And so that's where the bug hit, that I needed to do something for women of color, because as Black and brown professionals and as people in the world, there's so much that was trying to erase us. And so I had this burning desire in my heart to break free from that. So that's where the initial bug hit. But the bug for this book, again, that was 5 years ago. So fast forward to now, I was holding those stories for 5 years, and the Lord said it was time. And that's really what ignited the fire to put these words on paper and to start telling my story, which is not just my story, it's our story.
That's great. That's a question that I always ask that now I don't have to ask today is what was that catalyst that helped you know this is the time? Because that's a huge important fact that we sometimes overlook when we're talking with authors, because there are a bunch of people out there that are going to see this video that are still I've got a story, do I want to write it? And sometimes there is a catalyst that is exterior to us. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes there's something that happens from within. And sometimes those things happen at the same time. So I appreciate the fact that you share that with us because it's so important. We just learned that your bug to write, you knew that you wanted to write, started a while ago, but knowing specifically this book, these words,
Mm-hmm.
and the right time was now to get them out into the world. And I can't thank you enough for writing your book, Unapologetic.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you, what does unapologetic mean to you, Lakecia?
I'm so glad you asked, Leslie. And I want whoever's watching live, or if they're watching the replay, I want them to put in the comments what unapologetic means to them too, because I want to hear from the folks that are listening, because we can all have different definitions. But I'm going to give you the three that come to mind for me. So, unapologetic is a state of mind, it's a state of being, it's how we show up in the world. And the three things that come to my mind, number one, is that I am loved. To be unapologetic is to be radically in love with yourself. And I'm going to read a passage of scripture that comes to my mind when I think about feeling loved and what that means. It says in Matthew, I think it's 22, verse 37, it said, Jesus said unto him, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it, which says, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. And so when we think about loving ourselves, until you've experienced and received God's love, you don't know how to love yourself. And you can't love anyone else until you've received God's love. And so for me, to be unapologetic is to receive God's love. And if you agree with me, I want you to put self-love in the comments. This is to all the viewers. If you agree, self-love, and that you are loved, I want you to agree with me and put that in the comments. The second is self-acceptance. I think you can't have self-acceptance until you receive God's acceptance. I know that I chased acceptance for most of my adult life, seeking validation, seeking approval, knowing that God loved me, knowing that He accepted me, but I didn't accept myself. So I was always striving to be something that I was not. And with every win, I just lost a little bit of myself over time. So now, in the healed version of myself, to be unapologetic is to be accepted. And that is clapping for myself if no one else is clapping. That is showing up for myself if no one else shows up. And the last and ultimate thing
Yes.
that to me to be unapologetic is to be free.
Mm.
Freedom is the ultimate gift that God has given us. And that's freedom from the weights of shrinkage, people pleasing, performance, perfectionism, and freedom to walk boldly in God's plan and in his purpose for me. And if I'm doing that for me and you're doing that for you, then we both can be unapologetic. So for me, it's
Mm.
self-love, self-acceptance, and freedom. And if anyone agrees with those two, put those in the comments. And I also want to hear, what does it mean to you?
As you first started talking about your 3 points of being apologetic, I had a little boop. I don't know if anybody saw the little blurb over my head, but I have thought about your book in a new way that I hadn't thought about it before. And that is, I have thought about how important this book is to professional women.
Mhm.
And I don't think I realized I had put this in a little bit of a box, thinking more about women of a certain age, the 45, the 50, the 55. We frequently, for the first time, when we get to that through that age barrier, we suddenly are able to embrace ourselves and who we are more and become much more unapologetic. But the power of this book to a younger professional woman may be to break through that at a much earlier age. I mean, imagine embracing the truths of your book at 25 or at 30. This world is going to look much, much different.
Yes. I'm so glad you said that, Leslie, because you're right. When I wrote this book, I had this vision in my mind. Okay, I am at the crossroads of life. I'm in my 40s and 50s. And, that's when we're learning so much more about ourselves and embracing ourselves, just like you said. But what I've learned since writing the book is that the 30-year-olds and the 20-somethings, they're rising up and saying, whoa, wait a minute. I didn't realize I was shrinking. When you give me a compliment, I point out what's wrong. Well, guess what? That's you playing small. And if I had these tools when I was in my 20s, life would have been much different. Now, I thank God, okay, because it was all of that that brought me here.
Sure.
But at the same time, I'm so excited about what this might mean for my 8-year-old. What if I was 8 and understood how
Mm.
loved I was and how accepted I was, right? Then my teenage years would have been different because I wouldn't have
Indeed.
been seeking love and acceptance and validation from places that were never meant to serve me. If anything, they brought me pain and shame. And
Mm.
so again, I see this being, that's why I wrote the book too, is for my future grandchildren. If she's 5 and 6 and 7 years old, she'll know already that she's already loved. She's already accepted.
Mm.
So
Yes.
I do. I'm with you, Leslie. It is so it was meant for one purpose, but God is showing me how it can serve so many others in
Mhm.
all ages.
Indeed, indeed. And I know that your goal really has been to provide inspiration and guidance to professional women of color in the marketplace that are facing the challenges of being dampened down by coworkers and or leadership teams. But I have to say, and I've said this to you before, there were so many gems in every chapter that truly are applicable to any woman walking the path of professional leadership. And if, with your permission, I'd like to share just a couple of quick little passages that really stood out to me as I was reading your book the first time. Is that all right with you?
Absolutely.
We're not going to give too much away, but
No, give them too much.
just a few. The first two really go together. You said, what I learned is joy and intelligence can coexist. And that one struck me. And then joy is not unprofessional. Joy is your superpower. Lead with it. And I would love it if you would share with us why those sentences are in this book, because they're so important.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. That was one of my favorite lines, by the way, when I wrote that. And I'll tell you where it came from. Because I'm a big personality. I love people. I smile. I laugh. That's just the core of who I am. And I received feedback once from a well-intended person that people won't take you serious. You need to come in and get straight to the point. You need to cut across all the niceties and just get straight to the business, right? And so I found myself, again, shrinking under that feedback. And I would enter every space, reducing who I was in order to fit the mold of the office, of the corporate environment. And I did it. I did it for years. So it's not like I knew that this was true. Again, I did it for years until, again, everything shifted. And I realized that no, that's who I am. That's the core of who I am. And I'm not going to apologize. I actually do care how people are doing. I actually do care to hear about their family.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I know exactly what I'm doing. I know how to lead. I am intelligent. Matter of fact, I'm the one leading the entire call. So I don't get to put my joy down so that I can lead intelligently. And so that came to life for me. And now, interestingly, people say, "Oh, wow, we love it when you present. We feel seen, we feel heard." And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
"Wow, that's who I've been all along." And so I think that learning that I could be fully joyful and fully intelligent at the same time was a game changer for me. And so now I do, I lead with joy. And I also realize that I'm not everybody's cup of tea. So if I'm too loud or too nice, then that's not my problem. so
That's right.
so I had to just break free and lean completely into the truth of who I am and realize that's how God made me.
Yeah.
And if you're an introvert and you're not as animated and then that's how God made you, and it's okay to be that way. So I think that that's where that came from, and that's why it had to make the book, because I see too many people just trying to button up, and I'm like, just relax, it'll be okay. So that's where it came from.
And it's so interesting because nobody is everybody's cup of tea,
I know.
right?
Yeah.
And you really wouldn't want to be.
Oh
But
no.
there are some people that are intensely triggered by that effusive energy, whether it makes them feel threatened or they like things to be boxed up, right? They want it to be under control. But the truth of the matter is, when Lakecia is Lakecia,
Mhm.
as you said, you truly care about people. You truly ask someone how they're doing because it's important to you. And that energy that you naturally infuse into any place that you're in is how you can impact whatever
Exactly.
the task is, whether it's guiding, whether it's training, whether it's coaching.
Yeah.
Being ourselves is how we have an impact.
Hmm. Absolutely. Matter of fact, that's one of the affirmations in chapter 12, I believe. Authenticity is my superpower.
Mm, love it. So one other part from your book that I personally loved was when you said that the space should lift you, not the other way around. So talk about that for just a minute.
I love that one, by the way, as well. So thank you for pulling that
Mm.
gem out of the book. I've spent most of my career trying to fit into spaces. And that can be not just at work. I'm talking in culture and society in the community. Because someone said, well, you need to be part of this mastermind or you need to be part of this group. And I would often find myself searching for community. But what I was really searching for was a place to belong. And I know we all need that. I believe God created us for community. So I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to feel like you belong. The problem comes in when we shed pieces of ourselves to
Mm.
belong, when we shrink to belong. And so now, in order for me to feel like I fit, then I need to shed and reduce pieces of myself in order to fit. And so we find ourselves being inauthentic, and then we're struggling on the inside because we're trying to fit into the space.
Yeah.
What I mean by it should fit you, meaning you shouldn't have to shed pieces of yourself in order to be in that room.
Mm.
That means the room's not for you. So you have to show up 100% fully yourself, and those spaces will meet you where you are. You won't have to give something up of yourself in order to be there. So I think the space should fit you. And I'll tell you, I've been in spaces where they didn't fit and I had to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
I had to stay there. I had to learn a lesson. If I would have moved on any faster, then I would have missed the lesson and the blessing that God had for me. So this isn't about, oh, it doesn't fit me, let me just leave.
Mm-hmm.
That's not always possible. But I believe that the spaces that you belong in, the ones you truly belong in, accepts all of you. And that's the highs and the lows. That's the good parts and the not so good parts. And how many of us can be vulnerable enough to be in a space where it doesn't matter if I've got the right makeup, the right hairstyle, the right weight, the right height. Now, don't get me wrong. I do understand like-mindedness and
Mm-hmm.
being in spaces that really help you to grow. But I just believe that you have to be intentional. And if you find yourself shedding pieces of yourself in order to fit, then that should not be the case, right?
Mm.
So that's what I
That's
mean by that.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so important, and I
Mhm.
appreciate the fact that you reminded us that just because that room isn't right for you, it's not always indicative that it's your time to leave, because we're there for a reason, and sometimes it's because someone else needs to learn from us or we need to learn. But when things come into alignment with moving on, if you're paying attention, you'll know when that time comes to move on to a new room.
Definitely.
One
Definitely.
of the things I love about your book is that you offer reframing of thought patterns. And most guys, I think, need to include that, because you just aren't writing simply about theory. You give specific instructional steps at every point that you cover in your book. And that's so powerful because it will help the reader move from just reading and understanding to implementing. And without integrating what we learn into our life, it's just all kind of pretty wrapping.
Hmm. That was so important to me because I love books. I have tons of books on my bookshelves. Some I have not read all the way, but I love to get a really good book. And when it comes to leadership, and specifically for women of color, I found that it only hit the surface.
Mm.
And what I wanted to give my readers was specific steps that would also spark new steps for them, right? Because I don't have all the answers. most of everything that I wrote about was a journey that I had to heal from. And so I included the power moves and the reflection prompts that I had to go through in order to break the cycle that was occurring in my own life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that it's so important to give the how. How do I do it? Not just what do I need to do, but how do I do that? And then how do I reflect and learn and evolve? Because as you take one step of growth, there's always another opportunity to grow even more. And so my hope is that the book will give you the tools that you need to take action and to unshrink, and then you can help someone else. Because that's my hope. That's why I have founded the Shrink Free movement. This is not just a book, it's not just a mantra, it is a movement. And I want every woman of color to see every other woman and understand that you can uplift her and help her to rise too. So it's not just about us, it's about everybody else that's connected to us.
Indeed, indeed.
Mhm.
So let's shift a little bit into the writing process because I know we're supposed to talk about that too. And I just get so caught up in your book, I could keep going for a while. So I'm curious to know what your specific writing process is like. Did you have a set routine or was it a little bit more organic? Now, I realize you were part of our last self publishing cohort. And so you were under an extremely tight deadline.
Mhm.
So you could speak to that and perhaps maybe how did that deadline impact your writing process?
Well, as a new self-published author, my writing process was very messy. I admit I did not have a routine. I am someone that needs to be inspired to write.
Mm.
So the ideas would come in the car or while I'm shopping, or I could be doing something random and then I'll just have an idea. And so I would just scribble it on a piece of paper and then I'll come back to it later. So that's one of the things I learned, is that I needed to have a routine. Otherwise, I would just keep changing. Every time I wrote something, I keep changing it again.
Mm.
Good enough. And so I would say it was messy. However, having the deadline helped, and it was a ton of pressure. You might recall there was a moment when I thought I couldn't finish.
I
I
do
actually reached
remember.
out to the ladies on our group chat and I said, wait a minute, I don't know if I don't even know why I'm doing this now. Like, I don't think I'm going to finish. And you all went to the throne room on my behalf. You all started calling out demons. I mean, you just started praying for me, and that gave me so much strength that the next time I sat down in front of my computer, I just started writing and the words just started flowing. So I thank the ladies of the cohort for just standing in the gap, because I really was discouraged. But you all kind of pulled me through. And the deadline helped. I was up to the very last minute. It was midnight and I was hitting the button at 11:59, but I finished.
You
And
did.
all that mattered, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So you did then have some self doubt creeping in on you, which I think every author of every book goes through at some point. So, what helped you push through that specifically? Was it your prayer life? Was it the support of your community in the cohort? Was it both?
Mhm. All of the above. Most certainly prayer. Could not have done anything, could not have written one word without the Holy Spirit and without God just reminding me that this was the time. I did not mishear anything, because that's what self-doubt does. It
It does.
causes you to question the very thing that you heard without a doubt that you're supposed to do and that you're called to do. And that's one of the enemies. I call them shrinkers, right? So there's shrinkage, us playing small, but there's also the attempt to cause you to self-doubt and question your very purpose. So prayer was without a doubt the single most important thing that helped me to get through and overcome. And I'd also say the accountability.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about unapologetic is everything that I'm writing about, I needed to use it as a mirror. So every time I started to self doubt, the Holy Spirit would say, okay, what did you say in chapter 2?
Mm,
And so I had to hold myself accountable to the very words that I was putting on paper. And immediately that got me back in line. So I said, okay, all right, you win.
that's great.
And I have to do it today as well. I think that's the other thing I want everyone to also understand and embrace, that we are on a journey together. I still struggle to show up in the way that God has called me to show up, because some doubt might creep in. And I have to remind myself, number one, of the truth of what He said. And I have to really believe that. It's one thing to know it, but you got to believe it. And then you have to
Mm.
act on it. And so I think we are all growing and learning. And that's the beauty of life, is that we have the ability to learn and grow.
That's so good. I'm so glad you said that because um, people sometimes misinterpret the fact that, well, she wrote a book about this, and that
Mhm.
means, man, she's got it covered. She is a master of this. She is on the other side of it, and she's reached a level I could never attain. But the truth of the matter is what you just said. We're on a journey. We are growing. We are making mistakes. And sometimes we literally have to go back and reread our own written material to relearn the lessons. And that is a beautiful thing.
It really is. I wouldn't have it any other way, to be honest. I don't think we can ever count ourselves as having arrived. If you reach that point, then there's a bigger problem.
That's true. That's true. So, Lakecia, what about the publishing process was the most surprising to you?
Oh, the most surprising, I would say all the work that that goes
Yeah.
into the details, right?
Hmm.
From the cover to the the words about yourself and what you want readers to gain. I think that you don't just write a book, you don't just put words on a piece of paper. So I think really understanding that there is structure, there is a level of discipline, and there is a level of excellence that you need to aspire to, because anybody can write a book,
Right.
but not everybody can write the book that needs to be put into the world. And so the book becomes a level of responsibility that you carry to make sure that you're doing it the right way. And that's what I loved about the cohort. You all didn't just say, hey, just pour your heart out on a piece of paper. No, you taught us the structure, the pillars, the process. And oh, by the way, there's all these details that matter. What is it that you want to convey to the world? So every detail, from the cover to actually uploading on Amazon, it was just amazing to me how much work and diligence is required in order to produce a quality work.
That's so true. And I tell my coaching clients, you're going to be surprised to hear that your real work begins after you type the end, because there is so much more to the publishing process than just the actual writing of your book. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Mhm.
So then, what would you say to the person who's listening that really feels that they have a book inside them, but they're still kind of sitting on the fence still as to whether or not they want to commit to writing their book to publish? What would you say to them?
What are you waiting on? I would lead with that question. I would challenge anyone listening to ask themselves, well, what am I waiting on? What's holding me back? And if you can answer that, Then the next question becomes, so now what?
Mm.
But what I would say to encourage and prompt action is to say, start where you are. You don't have to have every detail put together. Start and trust the process. Some of us aren't writing in order to make New York bestseller list or make the money, although all those things would be great.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole point of God putting a story in your heart is not just for you. And there's somebody waiting. So who is not benefiting? Who is stuck because you won't release what God put in your heart? And once you make that about someone else and not just about what you can gain, I think it unleashes the floodgates, because it
Mm.
is about somebody else. Somebody else needs your story. Somebody can be helped. Somebody can be healed. And that to me would be the motivation to say, do it, start, because somebody's waiting.
That's perfect. There can't be a better motivation than that, is to take it outside of yourself and remember that it is not about you or for you, even though it is about you if you're sharing part of your story, but it's for the person that you can help. So I'm so glad you said that. So what's next for you, Lakecia?
I am still flying high. So as you know, I launched on October 7th, and it's been overwhelming support and love from so many people. And I'm just getting started though. So I have so much coming up. I have book signings coming up. I have one coming up here in Charlotte at my church. I have a couple of podcasts that I'll be joining in a couple of months. I am just on the campaign trail, and this is a movement. So I've got unapologetic t-shirts. I've got so much coming up that I'm really excited about. So I would say the next step, and if you all want to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and also my website is pinnacle-u.com. I'll have all of the upcoming events, and you can get on my mailing list, and you can have exclusive updates on what's coming next. I don't want anyone to be left out.
Perfect. Perfect. Do you think there's going to be another book on your horizon?
Oh, for sure. I
Good.
already got a list of books. Now that I've been given the tools from the Victorious You self-publishing cohort, I have a ton of books in me left. So I'm excited about what the future holds.
Well, I am too, because if you wrote it, I want to read it. That is for sure.
Thank
So,
you.
Lakecia, I'm so thrilled that you took time out to sit with me today. Can you share with us one more time, in case somebody didn't catch it,
Mhm.
how they can connect with you?
Yes, I am Lakecia Carter, all one word, on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. I also have a website. It's pinnacle-u.com. That's where you can get, if you haven't already and you want a signed copy of the book, you can order that directly from my website. Otherwise, you can go to Amazon and get the ebook and the paperback online. And that is where you can find me.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Lakecia. Again, I appreciate your time so much. And if you would like to appear on Author Spotlight, just drop me a message. You can find me at Victorious You Press. You can find me at Books to Business and Beyond on Facebook. Um, and just let me know that you would like to come on as a published nonfiction author. And you don't have to be published through Victorious You Press, even. This is just our way of giving back to the writing community, and we love doing it. So thank you all. We thank you for your time. And remember to keep writing, because your words are your legacy. Take
Awesome.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.